That there is a version of yourself you have not met yet, a version so composed, so deliberate, and so relentlessly consistent that if you encountered him today, you would barely recognize him. You might even fear him. Most people believe discipline is about waking up early, eating clean, or working harder. They are mistaken. Real discipline is not merely a habit. It is the willingness to confront your own weakness every single day. It is the ability to face your emotions, your fatigue, and your endless excuses without allowing them to dictate your actions. Machiavelli understood this well. He did not write for saints. He wrote for strategists. He knew that anyone seeking influence in a chaotic world could not afford to be ruled by impulse. You cannot remain predictable. You must become as steady and unshakable as a force of nature. When true discipline takes root, people do not simply respect you. They begin to notice something different. They sense that you are no longer easily manipulated. They see someone who has stopped bargaining with himself, and that quiet certainty unsettles them. Because a person who cannot be defeated by his own mind is far more difficult for the world to defeat. You are here because you are tired, not physically tired, but deeply internally exhausted. You are worn down by your own inconsistency. You are frustrated with making promises to yourself only to abandon them before the day is over. Meanwhile, you watch others move forward, while you remain caught in the same cycle-brief bursts of motivation, followed by familiar collapse. You want to know how to break out. You want to know how to build a mind that is bulletproof. I am going to show you how. But be warned, this is not self-help. This is self-destruction. We are going to destroy the weak, dependent, emotional part of you so that the ruler can emerge. We are going to apply the ruthless philosophy of Niccolo Machiavelli to your daily existence. By the end of this video, you will understand why being liked is a weakness and why being feared through your discipline is the ultimate freedom. But you have to listen closely because the secret isn't in what you add to your life. It's in what you are willing to kill. Most men are slaves to their impulses. Slaves to their phones, slaves to the opinions of people they don't even like. The moment you start this path, you stop being a slave. You become a sovereign, but sovereignty has a price. Are you willing to pay it? Phase 1, the discipline of silence. Machiavelli famously said, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience who you really are." The average man tells you everything. He broadcasts his plans, he posts his workouts, he announces his new era on social media before he has done a single day of work. He seeks validation for effort he hasn't even exerted yet. This is why he fails. He releases the pressure valve before the engine even starts. You must do the opposite. You must become a ghost. True discipline requires silence. It requires the dark. When you are constantly talking about your goals, you are begging for approval. You are asking the world, is it okay if I become this? Stop asking. The most dangerous man in the room is the one who listens, watches, and says nothing. But sir, when you go silent, you create a vacuum. People become unsettled. They project their own fears onto you. They wonder what you are up to. They wonder why you don't need their attention anymore. This silence is your armor. It protects your intent. When you work in the dark, you make mistakes that no one sees. You correct them without judgment. You build strength without the interference of other people's doubt. Imagine disappearing for 6 months. No announcements, no explanations, just work. The gym, the business, the mind. You cut the noise. You cut the cheap dopamine. You cut the toxic friends who only love you when you are drinking with them. And then you return. But you do not come back the same. You come back sharper, steadier, and more grounded. Your presence feels different. You do not need to announce that you have changed. People sense it. They notice it in your posture. They hear it in the confidence of your silence. This is the discipline of the ghost. It unsettles people because it reminds them of their own lack of focus. It reminds them that while they were chasing attention, you were quietly building strength. Start today. Stop explaining yourself. Constant explanation is the language of insecurity. Those with real power do not spend their energy justifying their actions. They simply execute them. If you are tired, work anyway. If you are hurt, heal in silence. If you are succeeding, keep moving forward. Your results will speak for you, and they will always speak louder than your words. If you are ready to step into the unknown, leave this affirmation in the comments, I build in silence. Phase 2. Emotional alchemy. Many people believe disciplined individuals are like machines, that they never feel pain, boredom, or sadness. That is a myth. A disciplined person feels every emotion. He feels the temptation to stay in bed. He feels the sting of rejection. He feels the urge to quit when the path becomes difficult. The difference is not that those feelings disappear. The difference is that they no longer control his decisions. Machiavelli argued that a leader must never be ruled by emotion, but instead learn to direct it with purpose. He said, men are driven by two principal impulses, either by love or by fear. You must apply this to yourself. You cannot rely on loving the grind. You will not love the grind at 4 a.m. You will hate it. You cannot rely on passion. Passion is a fickle flame. A gust of wind blows it out. You need something colder. You need duty. Discipline is the art of acting in direct opposition to how you feel. It is emotional alchemy. You take the lead weight of, I don't want to, and you transmute it into the gold of, I did it anyway. When you stop consulting your feelings before you act, you become dangerous. Think about it. If your enemy knows that you only fight when you are motivated, all they have to do is wait until you are sad, until you are tired. Then you are defenseless. But if you are the kind of man who works harder when he is miserable, who trains harder when he is heartbroken, who focuses deeper when he is angry, you become unpredictable. You become immune to circumstance. This scares people. They look at you and they think, why isn't he stopping? He should be broken by now. They don't understand that you have detached your actions from your feelings. You treat your emotions like the weather. You might look out the window and see a storm. You acknowledge it. It is raining, but you do not cancel your mission because of rain. You put on a coat and you walk. This is the Machiavellian approach to the self. You are the prince, and your emotions are the unruly subjects. You listen to them, but you do not let them rule the kingdom. If they riot, you crush them. Start practicing the seconds rule. When the alarm goes off, you have 3 seconds. If you think about it for 4 seconds, your brain will convince you to stay in bed. Your brain is designed for comfort, not greatness. It is a survival mechanism, not a success mechanism. You must bypass the negotiation. 1, 2, 3, move. Do not think. Thinking is the enemy of execution in the moment of weakness. Just move. The body must obey the command. Over time, you rewire your neural pathways. You stop being a man who tries to be good. You become a machine that functions regardless of how it feels. This is how you become untouchable. When your internal state no longer dictates your external output, you are free. Phase 3. The weaponization of isolation. Machiavelli understood that maintaining power often required the courage to stand alone. He wrote that a wise ruler should rely on what lies within his own control, rather than on what depends upon others. Look closely at your circle. Think about the 5 people you spend the most time with. Are they challenging you to become better, or are they encouraging you to remain comfortable? Most people are afraid of being alone. They fill every quiet moment with podcasts, music, text messages, endless scrolling, or constant distractions. They cannot sit with their own thoughts because those thoughts confront them with uncomfortable truths about wasted potential, broken promises, and postponed dreams. If you want to become relentlessly disciplined, you must learn to embrace solitude. You must be willing to distance yourself from people who no longer serve the mission you have chosen. That may sound harsh. Sometimes it is. But growth often demands difficult decisions. As you begin to rise, some people will instinctively try to pull you back. Not because they necessarily hate you, but because your progress forces them to confront their own stagnation. You become a mirror. When you improve your health, someone who neglects theirs may feel quietly judged. When you build something meaningful, someone who avoids taking risks may feel uncomfortable. They may tell you, "You've changed, you're obsessed, you're not as fun anymore." Let them. The pursuit of comfort has kept many people exactly where they are, while discipline is what moves you toward the life you are determined to build. You are not here for fun. You are here for mastery. You must become comfortable with the idea of being the villain in their story. Let them call you cold. Let them call you distant. Let them tell stories about how you think you're better than everyone else. You don't think you're better. As you just have different standards and you refuse to lower them to make others feel comfortable. Isolation is the laboratory of the great. It is in the solitude that you find out who you actually are. Without the noise of other people's opinions, you hear your own voice. You clarify your vision. You need to schedule periods of total withdrawal. Monk mode, deep work, whatever you want to call it. Lock the door, turn off the phone, and face the work. In that space, you will find demons, you will find boredom, you will find anxiety, and you will fight them. And when you win that fight in the dark, you will walk into the light with a confidence that cannot be faked. People sense this. They sense a man who does not need them. And ironically, that is exactly what makes them want to follow you. The man who is comfortable alone is the man everyone wants to be around because he is the only one who is not trying to take something from them. He is full. Phase 4. The fear of unpredictability. Machiavelli advised that a leader should never be entirely predictable. It is much safer to be feared than loved because love is preserved by the link of obligation, which is broken at every opportunity for their advantage. But fear preserves you by a dread of punishment, which never fails. How does this apply to discipline? When you are undisciplined, you are predictable. People know you will quit. They know you will complain. They know that if they pressure you enough, you will fold. You are easy to manipulate because your weaknesses are visible. When you become disciplined, you become a glitch in their matrix. You stop reacting. Someone insults you, you don't get angry. You look at them, pause, and go back to work. A crisis happens, you don't panic. You analyze. You lose money, you don't cry. You rebuild. This lack of reaction is terrifying to manipulative people. They rely on your emotional volatility to control you. When you remove the buttons they use to push, they are powerless. Your consistency becomes your weapon. Imagine a man who shows up every single day. He doesn't complain. He doesn't brag. He just executes. Year after year, you cannot stop him. You cannot discourage him. You cannot distract him. That is what makes him intimidating. He is inevitable. You want to become that person, someone who cannot be bargained with or pulled away from his purpose. This is not about aggression. It is about becoming unwavering. Like a glacier, slow, silent, yet powerful enough to reshape everything in its path. Reaching that level requires letting go of the part of yourself that constantly seeks sympathy. Stop feeling the need to explain every struggle. Stop broadcasting every difficult day. Stop depending on external reassurance to keep moving. Every time you seek sympathy, you hand other people a map to your vulnerabilities. Machiavelli would argue that your wounds should be protected, not out of shame, but because there is no value in giving those who oppose you the satisfaction of knowing they have weakened you. Stand tall, carry yourself with intention, walk with quiet purpose. Even when your world feels uncertain, refuse to let panic become your public identity. This is not about pretending everything is perfect. It is about choosing how you frame adversity. By remaining composed, you send a message to both yourself and the world: I am still in control. And over time, that composure becomes reality rather than performance. Phase 5. The standard of the absolute. Why do so many people fail? often because their standards are too low. They accept a version of reality where trying is considered enough, where almost becomes acceptable, and where inconsistency is repeatedly excused. Real discipline begins the moment you raise the standard you refuse to fall below. Machiavelli studied the great empires Rome, Sparta. They didn't fall because of external enemies. They fell because they rotted from within. They lost their discipline. They became soft. Luxury made them weak. You are living in the most luxurious time in human history. You have heating delivery food, endless entertainment, pornography, sugar drugs. Everything is designed to make you soft. Everything is designed to sedate you. To be disciplined in this world is an act of rebellion. You must declare war on comfort. You must set standards that seem unreasonable to everyone else. Why do you wake up at 4 a.m.? Why do you verify every detail? Why do you refuse to eat that? Because I am not you. That is the internal monologue. You don't say it out loud, you just live it. When you hold yourself to a standard of excellence, you expose the mediocrity of everyone around you. This is why they hate it. Your existence challenges their excuses. If you can do it, why can't they? It's easier for them to call you crazy or obsessed than to admit they are lazy. Second instant, let them. The Machiavellian man does not lower himself to be understood by fools. He forces the world to rise to meet him, or he leaves the world behind. You must become ruthless with your time. Time is the only resource you cannot regenerate. Every second you spend arguing with an idiot scrolling through social media or worrying about things you cannot control is a second you have stolen from your future empire. Guard your time like a dragon guards gold. Be inaccessible. Be brief. Be direct. When people realize that your time is expensive, they stop wasting it. When they realize your attention is rare, they value it. Discipline creates scarcity, and scarcity creates value. By becoming so disciplined that you are almost mechanical in your execution, you elevate yourself out of the competition. Most people are competing in the average bracket. The air is thin at the top because few have the lungs to breathe there. Climb there. The view is different. The silence is different. Phase 6, the death of the old self. This is the hardest part. This is the part where you have to hold the funeral. To become the person who scares them, you have to kill the person you used to be. You have to let go of the version of yourself that constantly needs to be liked. You have to leave behind the version that apologizes for having ambition. Look honestly at your past, your mistakes, your failures, your painful experiences, and your regrets, and make the decision to stop letting them define who you become. Machiavelli wrote, "There is no avoiding war. It can only be postponed to the advantage of others." The greatest battle is often the one within yourself. You are at war with your former self. If you refuse to outgrow him, he will continue shaping your future. He will whisper the familiar excuses whenever life becomes difficult. Take a break. Have one more drink. Skip today. You can start tomorrow. Growth demands for firmness. It requires shedding an old identity. That process is uncomfortable. It leaves you exposed, but it is also the only path toward lasting change. Along the way, you may lose friendships. You may outgrow certain relationships. Some family members may misunderstand your priorities. That is often the price of choosing a different direction. Do not waste energy complaining about that cost. Accept it, pay it, and keep moving. Because on the other side of that transformation is a new beginning. A version of yourself that is stronger, sharper, and more deliberate. A version that responds with reason instead of impulse. A version that approaches life with strategy instead of drifting through it by chance. That future version of you may seem intimidating. It should. Real strength always feels unfamiliar before it becomes your new identity. And every disciplined choice you make brings you one step closer to becoming that person. Not power over others that is tyranny, but power over yourself that is majesty. When you walk into a room with total self-control, you vibrate at a different frequency. People yield the right of way. They don't know why, but they know you are not to be trifled with. You have that look. The look of a man who has seen the abyss and walked through it. The look of a man who has conquered his own mind. There is no greater victory. As the Stoics knew, as Machiavelli knew, the man who conquers himself is greater than the man who conquers a city. So what happens when you commit to this? When you truly become this disciplined, the noise stops. The anxiety that has buzzed in the background of your life for years, it goes quiet. Because anxiety comes from knowing you are unprepared. It comes from knowing you are lying to yourself. When you are disciplined, you have nothing to hide. You know who you are. You know what you are capable of. You stop fearing the future because you are building it. You stop fearing other people because you know they cannot outwork you. You stop fearing failure because you know that failure is just data for the next attempt. You become free, but it is a cold freedom. It is a lonely freedom. It is the freedom of the wolf on the hill looking down at the sheep in the pen. They are warm. They are safe. Thus, they are fed, but they are trapped. You are out in the cold. You are hungry, but you are free. And that is the choice you have to make today. Do you want the warmth of the herd or the power of the hunt? You cannot have both. Machiavelli wrote his philosophy in exile. He was stripped of his status, tortured, and cast out. And in that darkness, he wrote the words that would change the world. He didn't need the applause. He needed the truth. Your discipline is your truth. It is the only thing that is yours. They can take your money, they can take your job, they can take your reputation, but they cannot take your discipline. They cannot take your ability to endure. That is your fortress. That is your throne. Listen to me. The world is getting softer. The world is getting louder. The world is getting more chaotic. This is your advantage. While they get weaker, you get harder. While they get distracted, you get focused. While others chase comfort, you choose growth. While they avoid discomfort, you step toward the challenge. That alone will make some people uneasy, not because you are trying to intimidate them, but because your discipline reflects possibilities they have chosen not to pursue. Let them watch. Let them question. Let them misunderstand if they must. Your attention belongs on the work ahead. The path is demanding. It is often lonely, but if you have committed to it, keep walking. If you have stayed with this message until the end, you have already done something most people never do. You stayed long enough to reflect, instead of looking for the next distraction. If you are committed to taking the harder road, leave this affirmation in the comments, I choose the cold path. And if you want to continue exploring psychology, strategy, self-mastery, and timeless lessons on discipline and personal growth, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. This is only the beginning. The old version of you does not have to define the future. Now go build the person you are capable of becoming.